Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting someone vulnerable?
Oh, that is such a tough spot to be in.
Right. I mean, you probably know the feeling. It's this brutal tightrope walk. You want everyone to be comfortable. You want your space to feel inviting.
Yeah, of course.
But suddenly, the safety of one person requires making things very, very uncomfortable for someone else.
It really is the ultimate collision of like hospitality and duty. We love this idea of welcoming everyone, right?
Yeah.
But the reality of leadership, whether you're running a boardroom, managing a community center, or even just hosting a family dinner,
Hmm.
often demands that you become the bouncer. You just have to actively defend the space you created.
Exactly. And I was reading this fascinating breakdown of this exact dynamic. It's from a blog post dated August 1st, 2026 by Jamin Bradley.
Right. The pastor up in Jackson, Michigan.
Yes, exactly. He leads a couple of congregations up there, including one called Nerd Church JXN, but his background is just incredibly eclectic.
It really is.
He's a theologian, an author, a musician, and this is the detail that really caught my eye. He's an exorcist.
Which, I mean, that tells you something vital about his baseline for human interaction,
No,
right?
for sure.
Someone with that specific background is trained to look past the surface. They spend their time navigating these complex, unseen, and like highly charged psychological or spiritual dynamics.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
When you study the extremes of human behavior, you learn very quickly how to spot malice, especially, when it's hiding behind a polite mask.
Right. So today's deep dive is all about what happens when that polite mask slips. We're exploring this highly charged, real-world dilemma Jamanin faced,
Hmm.
where an abuser actually weaponized the very concept of a welcoming community just to gain access to their victim.
Yeah, and the goal here is to really break down the anatomy of boundary setting and manipulation.
Exactly, because the lessons here, I mean, they go way beyond the walls of a church.
Oh, absolutely. This is about understanding how bad actors exploit the social contracts we all rely on and, how you can protect the people relying on you.
So picture this. It's a Sunday morning. A man walks into the church.
Okay.
He's carrying a Bible. He's wearing a black blazer. And underneath, a Jesus is King t-shirt.
Very specific look.
Right. To any casual observer in that room, he looks exactly like a model congregant. He looks the part.
But your man knows who he is.
Exactly. He's the manipulative and abusive ex of a female congregant. And this woman had explicitly requested that he not be allowed in the building.
You really have to notice the premeditation in the outfit there. I mean, the man didn't just wander in off the street.
No, not at all.
He targeted this specific space on this specific day, and he dressed in a way that weaponizes the community's own culture against it.
Wow.
The T-shirt and the Bible aren't just clothes, right? They're psychological camouflage.
It's the ultimate Trojan horse maneuver, honestly.
Yeah.
If you think about how a Trojan horse actually works, it's not just about hiding soldiers inside a wooden shell.
Right. It's the disguise.
Exactly. It's disguising a threat as a sacred offering.
Yeah.
Something so culturally significant that the guards willingly open the gates themselves.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, if you want to infiltrate a hospital, you put on scrubs. If you want to infiltrate a church, you wear a Jesus is King shirt.
It's so manipulative, and it's designed to paralyze the leader's decision-making process.
Yeah, because it triggers instant cognitive dissonance, doesn't it?
Completely. The leader is forced to weigh their idealized identity, running a sanctuary open to all seekers,
Okay.
against their primal instinct, which is that immediate, non-negotiable duty to protect a vulnerable person inside that building.
But Jalen, to his credit, he doesn't freeze.
No, he doesn't.
He immediately pulls the man away from a friend he came with, takes him straight into the church nursery to get some privacy.
Which is such a smart move. He's isolating the threat. He's removing the audience, which is crucial because manipulators, they really rely on bystanders to reform for.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Plus, he gets the threat completely out of the victim's line of sight.
So once they're behind closed doors, the man instantly plays innocent.
Of course.
He claims he and his friend are just, quote, church hoppers.
Right.
They're just visiting different churches, looking for spare Bibles and water to give to the homeless.
Yeah.
He literally asked Jamin if they have any spare Bibles lying around.
Unbelievable.
But Jamin cuts through the noise. He mentions they have a food bank later, but tells the man he needs to leave because he's clearly not there for the right reasons.
Good for him.
But I want to pause here for a second, because I know what you might be thinking listening to this.
Yeah.
Aren't churches supposed to be the ultimate open-door institutions?
That's the big question.
Like, how does a leader mentally justify kicking someone out of a place that's fundamentally designed to welcome anyone and everyone?
Well, that tension is exactly what the abuser is counting on.
Right.
Yeah. Abusers frequently use these noble-sounding decoys, like, handing out Bibles to the homeless to mask their true intentions.
Wow.
It's a tactic specifically designed to make the leader feel guilty for even questioning them. By hiding behind the homeless, the abuser forces a clash between the pastor's theology and the pastor's gut instinct.
It's social engineering at its finest. But, Jamin doesn't take the bait.
No, he holds firm.
He tells the man, look, there are a lot of churches in Jackson, but this one does not make sense for you. You were asked not to come, and you're here anyway.
And that is where the real test begins.
Yeah.
Because manipulators, they rarely just accept a firm no and walk away. When they hit a boundary, they immediately begin stress testing it to see if it will hold.
Which brings us to this incredible 20-minute standoff in the church nursery.
Yeah, this part is wild.
It really is. This is where we see the anatomy of manipulation in real time. It's exactly like watching a computer hacker probe a secure network.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right. A hacker knows the front door, like the main login screen, is locked, so they don't just keep banging on the front door.
No, they pivot.
Exactly. They start scanning for an open port in the background, looking for literally any structural vulnerability in the system they can exploit.
And this man runs a very predictable, highly effective script here.
He does.
His first tactic is a classic example of what psychologists call DARVIO.
Oh, right. That stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
Exactly. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender.
So when Jamin asks him to leave, the man says, sounding deeply hurt, I've never been asked to leave a church before.
Boom, that's the reversal of victim and offender right there.
Yep.
The man is the aggressor, right? He's the one violating a boundary to intimidate an ex-partner, but the moment he's confronted, he just flips the script.
So easily, too.
Suddenly, he's the innocent victim of this, unchristian, unwelcoming host. He wants Jamin to defend his hospitality rather than enforce the boundary.
Well, when the guilt trip fails to penetrate the firewall, the hacker drops the hurt act instantly.
Just completely abandons it.
Switches to tactic number 2, which is entitlement and weaponized theology.
Right.
The man just becomes obstinate. He says he drove 25 minutes to be there, and then he drops the ultimate institutional trump card.
Oh, yeah. I know it's coming.
He looks at Jamin and says, this is God's house, and I can worship wherever I want, and he refuses to leave until the service is over.
Wow. By invoking God's house, he's attempting to bypass Jamin's authority entirely.
Exactly.
He's effectively saying, your boss, God, says I'm allowed to be here.
Right.
So that means you have no jurisdiction to remove me. It's this brilliant, twisted way of using the institution's own foundational language to just paralyze the person in charge.
But Jamin holds the line. He reminds the man that the church is actually private property.
A good factual counter.
So the hacker tries a third tactic. He goes for threatening the optics. He tells Jamin, that would look really bad for your church.
Notice how the threat shifts there. It goes from spiritual to reputational.
Yes, exactly. And Jamin meets it perfectly. He replies, yes, and it would look bad for you too.
That is a conversational checkmate.
Right.
He neutralizes the threat by reminding the man of mutually assured destruction. If this goes public, the abuser's reputation burns down right alongside the church's.
So guilt failed. Entitlement failed.
Yeah.
Threats failed.
Mm-hmm.
The firewall is holding.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the man does something that genuinely gave me absolute chills.
Yeah, this is the creepy part.
He abandons the frontal assault entirely and just casually asks us about a Bible study he saw listed on the church website.
He's searching for that open port.
Yeah.
He's looking for a loophole in the organizational structure that will grant him access without the pastor's direct approval.
So Jamin tells him, well, the Bible study isn't running right now because they lack volunteers.
Right.
Instantly, the man offers to volunteer.
Unbelievable.
Jamin, seeing the game, says no, only members can lead. The man then asks how someone becomes a member.
And Jamin replies, through me.
Exactly. Through me. And the man responds with a smirk. He says, oh, I see.
Wow.
The mask completely slips in that moment. He clearly takes pleasure in getting a rise out of the pastor, finding real hard limits of the system are.
The term charmer that Jamin uses to describe this guy, it is incredibly accurate.
So accurate.
This entire 20-minute exchange just strips away the decoy. It was never about worshiping.
Oh.
It was never about spare Bibles for the homeless or volunteering. The smirk gives the whole game away.
Yeah, it really does.
It's entirely about power, control, and boundary testing. He's treating the confrontation as a sport. He's enjoying the friction of proving he can infiltrate the space despite the victim's request and the leader's authority.
But, I mean, the standoff in the nursery can't last forever.
Right.
Real-world logistics start crashing in. The Sunday church service is literally about to begin. Jamin realizes he is completely out of time.
Because leaders rarely happens in perfect, sterile laboratory conditions.
Yeah.
There's almost always a ticking clock forcing your hand.
Right. If Jamin is going to physically remove this guy,
Yeah.
he has to call the police. But he writes about the logistical nightmare that would cause.
Whoa, it would be chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
He'd have to start the service, walk off stage when the cops arrive, deal with removing the man, and then somehow walk back onto the stage to preach.
Yeah. That's impossible.
So he makes a highly calculated risk assessment. He allows the man to stay until the end of the service under the strict condition that he never returns or the police will be called immediately.
Okay.
The man agrees. He walks out of the nursery and into the lobby. And do you know what he does?
I do. He leverages the crowd.
Yes. He immediately starts shaking hands with congregants. He introduces himself to random people saying, "Hi, this is my first time here, but it will also be my last because your pastor has asked me to leave."
It's just a breathtakingly manipulative PR move.
Now, I have to push back hard on this outcome because reading the source material, I felt incredibly frustrated. Didn't Jamin just lose? I mean, he let the guy bypass the boundary, stay for the service, and then pull this ultimate spin doctor move in the lobby.
Yeah.
The guy basically got to play the martyr, shake hands, and paint the pastor as the bad guy to a bunch of people who have no idea what's actually happening.
I totally hear that frustration. And on the surface, it absolutely feels like a massive concession, right?
Yeah, it does.
It feels like the bad guy won the moment. But look at Jimin's alternative.
Okay.
If he calls the cops right then, what happens to the victim? She becomes the center of a very public, very traumatizing spectacle in front of hundreds of people.
Oh, man.
And abusers often crave that kind of explosive public theater.
So by making the compromise, Jamin actually contains the explosion.
Precisely. The man's lobby introduction is a calculated move to isolate the leader. By telling uninformed bystanders that the pastor is kicking him out, he's trying to fracture the congregation's trust in Jamin.
Right, because to a random person getting coffee, it just looks like the pastor's being cruel.
Exactly. It looks like he's being incredibly harsh to a friendly new guy. But Jamin writes that drawing firm boundaries sometimes looks unwelcoming.
Wow. So he just absorbed the reputational damage.
He actively sacrificed his own image in the eyes of his congregants to protect the flock.
That's intense.
He took the PR hit so the victim wouldn't have to become a public spectacle. Firm boundaries often look like aggression to people who just don't understand what's being protected.
Right.
Crisis management is rarely about finding a perfect solution. It's usually about taking the lesser of two very ugly evils.
But, you know, Jamin's problem doesn't disappear when the guy finally walks out the door.
No, it doesn't.
Now he has to face a sanctuary full of people, and more importantly, the victim, who just watched this play out.
Yeah, that aftermath is heavy.
So as the service actually starts, Jamin goes directly to the woman who had asked that the ex not be allowed in. And he explicitly apologizes to her.
Wow.
He literally tells her he is sorry for not being brave enough to call the police this time.
That level of pastoral transparency is stunning.
It is almost unheard of. I mean, in any leadership role, but especially in religious institutions where there's this immense pressure to appear infallible.
Absolutely.
Leaders rarely admit perceived failures in real time like that. He doesn't make excuses to her. He doesn't, explain the logistical nightmare of the ticking clock or the police.
Right.
He just owns the fact that he didn't take the hardest possible line.
Yeah.
And that kind of raw vulnerability actually builds massive trust.
Because it validates her reality. It proves he isn't going to gaslight her about what just happened.
And he takes it a step further. He literally ditches his originally planned sermon message.
Just throws it out.
Throws it out. He gets up on stage and preaches on the biblical concept of empowering and respecting women.
That's amazing.
Right. He pivots the entire public gathering to address the thematic core of the private crisis they literally just survived.
This touches on a really vital psychological concept known as institutional betrayal.
Oh, interesting. What's that?
Well, historically, institutions, whether it's churches, corporations, universities, they have a terrible track record when individuals, particularly women, speak up about manipulation and abuse.
Right. Yeah.
The default setting of an institution is always self-preservation. It's easier to keep the peace, to preserve the illusion of harmony, than to fiercely protect the individual.
So as I keep the guy in the Jesus is King t-shirt happy, because on paper,
Yeah.
he boosts your attendance numbers and looks great for the brand.
Exactly the trap. But Jamin consciously breaks that cycle of institutional betrayal here.
Yeah,
True shepherding isn't just about gathering people into a room and being hospitable. It's about active, aggressive protection.
definitely.
Jamin notes in his writing that he came in full force to squash the situation before it grew. He didn't ignore the victim. He didn't tell her she was overreacting.
Right.
He confronted the threat head on, even if the real-time execution required a pretty uncomfortable compromise.
He stood in the gap. And honestly, this is a massive takeaway for you, the listener, wherever you lead. Whether you're managing a corporate team, running a neighborhood association, or just setting rules for your own family home, drawing a healthy boundary will almost certainly make you look like the bad guy to outsiders.
It's true.
The people in the lobby will not understand why you're asking the smiling guy in the blazer to leave. They'll call you harsh, unaccommodating, or unwelcoming.
Yeah.
But that is the heavy burden of leadership. Sometimes protecting the vulnerable requires sacrificing your own popularity.
You really have to differentiate between performative hospitality and true safety.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it.
A space cannot be genuinely welcoming if it allows predators to operate unchecked under the guise of inclusion. Tolerance of a threat is not hospitality, it's negligence.
Wow. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question to mull over as you go about your day.
Okay, let's hear it.
If our community spaces, our churches, our clubs, our workplaces are inherently designed to be open, friendly, and trusting, are they naturally vulnerable to those who know exactly how to exploit that very hospitality?
Well, the very traits that make a community beautiful and inviting are the exact same traits that make it a lucrative target for manipulators.
So how do you build a culture that manages to be both an open door for the well-meaning and an impenetrable fortress against the manipulative?
It's a huge challenge.
How do you keep the peace without sacrificing the vulnerable to do it? It is not binary. It's incredibly messy.
Very messy.
But as we've seen today, sometimes standing in that uncomfortable, murky gap, absorbing the hits, is exactly what true leadership requires. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.